Right, good morning, everybody. It's a special chus to learn on a day like today. There's so many different distractions. We're up to Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. It's not gone live yet. Does it matter if it's not gone live? Still take your time. Oh, right now it's gone live.
What's the Zoom number?
Does anybody know the Zoom number? Maybe Ben knows. Ben, do you know the Zoom number?
Yeah.
It's the same as usual. Why is it different from any other time? Ben,
Yeah.
you're able to tell Yehuda Stern the Zoom number?
Yeah, I'll text him.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, as I was saying, special chus, we're up to Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph, 50 lines from the bottom. We said yesterday there's a special mitzvah to guard Tumah. If a person does not guard Tumah, the Tumah becomes possible. We had the machlekas. What's the machlekas? Why does Tumah become possible if it's not guarded? Who remembers? What's the machlekas? One man Doma holds the reason it becomes possible because Bechoshish became Tommy. Another man Doma says nothing to do with Tumah. Even if Eliyahu Novi would guarantee that it didn't become Tommy, since it's Shmers to Moisa, you have to guard it. So it's also like this. That is possible, whatever happens. It's only possible because it's Tommy Ma'ikil Mima. The Beis there said that if you plant Truma, it's possible. Now, we know that if you plant Truma, it does not lose its Tumah. It loses its Tumah. Why does it lose its Tumah? Because Tumah gets evaporated when it's planted. If that's the case, the Gemara, that if the whole
you can make it turn and then
that's
take
right.
it out and eat it again.
Only when it's completely plant, only when it's completely taken root, etc., etc. Yes.
But we said like onions.
Right. Means that which that's right. Onions once they're growing, you can even take out the actual bulb itself and eat it and stop. Says the Gemara, according to Mandamar, the whole reason why, if it's not looked after, it's possible because it's tummy. There's no tumor by something which is planted. So the Gemara explains the itma. Hesach hadas b'richin oma absol tumor is absol tumor hava. Mishul lokish oma absol agufava. Abirichin oma absol tumor hava shimyo ve'eli ovi etareno. If Eliyahu Novi comes and says, let's store shimino. Shimon lokish oma. Oima absol agufava shimyo ve'eli ovi etareno shimino. So it comes out according to Shlokish, it's understandable that when you plant it, it's no good. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the whole problem of planting it is only because of tumah. If the whole problem is because of tumah, and we hold that when you plant it, it's not tummy, so what do we care if it's not being guarded? Now the Gemara goes off like a particular tangent, and the Gemara says like this: we're going to discuss the machlokas of Yochanan and Shlokish regarding is that which tumah is not guarded, is it a psul aguf or is it a psul tumah? In the Beis Hamikdash, there was a Beis HaSreifa. The Beis HaSreifa was a place they burned every korban that was possible. Now, what happens if you were not sure if a korban was possible? What would you do? What happens if you weren't sure if a korban was possible? What would you do? Oh, why would you gain by leaving it? Oh, very good. Exactly. What you would do is you'd leave it, it would become noiser, then you'd burn it. Now, for some reason, the Gemara always calls that tu'ubat surase, change its shape. That means get rid of its form. By making it a noisa, it no longer has a form of kedusha. That's what it was like this. That's inside. A little cotton, a small window, a small hole. That was between the ramp and the mizbeach. The Noah Mishal Kevish on the west side of the Kevish. If you had a bird, which was possible, and if that's where you would bring it on the mizbeach, and you weren't sure if it was possible, you would leave it in this small trap, and like it was a trap in the floor, wait for it to be noisa, and then once it was noisa, you'd take it, you used to be safe, take it Beis HaSreifa. That means the purpose of Psul over here, we'll talk about where it wasn't guarded. And we're not sure if it's Tommy or Torah. That's where you have to wait for Noisa. If you hold Psul Aguf, Lom Li Butzur. Why do you do Butzur? Votnan Zakla, top of Lamadal of Beis. Kol Shepsul Beguf Yisroel Miyad. Anything which got Psul Aguf, you can burn it straight away. You don't need to have Ibutzur. V'damu B'Balim. But if it's a problem is only with the blood, for example, the blood got spilled or the owners became Tommy, Tubat Suroson, you first have to wait for it to be Tubat Suroson, which means what? What's Tubat Suroson mean? Which means leave it over to make it noisa. So according to you, that something which is not guarded is a psula guf. Why do you have to wait until it's otubatsu also? And according to psula guf, it's possible whatever happens. Bishlam, according to me, says Abdi Yechon, that the problem if it's not guarded is that was a shash tumah, but maybe it wasn't tumah. That's why we have to wait for noisa. But according to you, that once it's not guarded, it's definitely possible. So either way, you should be tubatsu. You should throw it. You should put it base as sofa. There is a Tana that holds that every korban, however possible it is, even pigo, which is one of the worst korbanos to become possible, that means it works psulim, you always have to wait for noisor. You never burn a korban until it's gone through the process of noisor. So if you can't ask me a question from that Beis. If the meat becomes tummy or posel, I'll explain in a minute what posel means. Went out of Yisroel. Can start kind of doing Zik's Adam. You can't do Zik's Adam. If you did do Zika, then it worked. So, well, my nifsa, we're not talking about became posel, that you stop looking after it. And that's what's wrong with it. We have a principle that all psuli tumah, the Torah says for Nilzaloi that the tzitz has the ability to be mechap on korbanos which are no good. And we had this previously. For which psul does the tzitz meratza? What kind of psul? Not pigel, not noisa. What psul does the tzitz work for? Only psul tumah. So if you say according to me, says Rabbi Yochanan, that hesach hadas is a psul tumah, that is why the tzitz is meratza. El yomus psul agufava amay otza tzitz. As more my nifsa b'tivul yom. We're talking about not hesach hadas. We're talking about tivul yom. What's a tivul yom? What is a tivul yom? Some do toivel the mikveh, but it hasn't yet waited for Nach, the first mission in Bochas. So then, if you touched it, that's the psul we're talking about. Things more yochyan utomik. Why does the Mishnah have to say two? Why does it have to say Tommy or Nifsa? It's both of them are Tommy. One's tumah, proper tumah, one's tumah for tumah tivul yom. As more Trey Gavne Tommy, we're talking about two kinds of tumah. Since we're talking about two kinds of tumah, and therefore it is not a kasha on the Mishnah. So that means like this. Let's go through very briefly. We had like this. If your person plants truma, we had a brisa that tells us, what's the brisa tell us? Aleph, it's not Tommy. Beis, a Kohen can't eat it. And the more ask me, so you can't eat it. Does anybody remember? This was a tale we said yesterday. If you say that it's not Tommy, so why are you not allowed to eat it? Does anybody remember? Moshe, remember what did we say yesterday? Why not allowed to eat it? Do you remember? What's the answer? Better than that. Why not we do a bonon? Because it was hesach hadas. That's more said. It's possible because of hesach hadas. It's psul hesach hadas. That's why you're not allowed to eat it. When you plant, it's psul hesach hadas. Now the Gemara goes back to the answer. Robin went to move to Eretz Yisrael after many years in Babel. And when he moved to Eretz Yisrael, he brought back with him many different statements. And he repeated this statement that what Shai just said, that the reason why it's possible is because it's possible hesach hadas. And that's why you can't eat it. But Oman, he said, you foolish Babylonians, because you sit in a dark country, you say dark things, meaning unclear items. Why is Babel a dark country? Because he's referring to comparison in Eretz Yisrael. Babel is a lot brighter than England. But compared to Eretz Yisrael, it's a dark country, because Eretz Yisrael has got mountains, it's got brightness. Babel is like a valley. It's in a valley, there's not as much sunlight. So because you live in Babel, you say dark things. If you've got the water on Sukkot, every day on Sukkot, they would pour some water on the Mizbeach. And if that water became tummy, hishikon, if you first put it to touch the water, hashokah. Does anybody know what hashokah is? Hashokah, if you want to make water toy, well, nowadays we use it for mikveh, but besides that, if you've got, let's say, wine became tummy, you dip the bowl of wine into the mikveh, and once the water of the wine and the water touch, it becomes toy. Since either way you've done hazvor, meaning like this, that when you ask the question, you planted it. If you planted it, it should be okay. Answers you wrong. There's a maila osu bekodesh. There's a chashivus, a chumrah they did by hekdesh, which is what? That even though normally planting works, when it comes to hekdesh, it doesn't work. When it comes to truma, it doesn't work. Oh, so if that's the case, why is it toy? Rashi asks the kasha. Rashi answers that legabi tumah v'tar to spread tumah, the zvia works. But legabi that kohen should be able to eat it, that not. So zvia doesn't work. So there's a special chumrah b'kodesh. That means if you've got wine which is tummy, and you want to drink it, and you like to eat things which are tummy, what can you do? Dip it in the mikvah, and your wine is tummy, right? Or a bit of it. No, the actual liquid. You put the liquid in the open barrel. You lower the barrel into the mikvah. A little bit of the wine will go, a little bit of water, a bit of wine will go into the water. But if you do it for 1 second, take the barrel out and you can drink the wine. Yes? Okay. But that won't work in the Beis Hamikdash. Why does that not work? No, it won't work if it's already Kaddish. Why won't it work if it's already Kaddish? A chumrah by Kodshim. Yosef Avdim have come on Shmait. Hekdishim Bekeli come on. There's two kinds of Kedusha. Kedusha Saguf, which is in the Keli, and Kedusha Sapeh. For example, if I say I'm going to bring this to the Beis Hamikdash, that's Kedusha Sapeh, right? I've only said it's Kaddish. Once it comes to the Beis Hamikdash, let's say oil, wine, and things which go on the Mizbeach, you would put it in a special bowl. That bowl, which already had Kedusha, you'd put the wine and the oil into that bowl. And that was a much higher Kedusha. For example, the halachas of Noisa left over only apply once it goes into a bowl of the Beis Hamikdash. So the question over here, we said that there's a chumrah b'kodesh. What's the chumrah b'kodesh we just said? What's the chumrah b'kodesh we just said? Very good. Hashaka doesn't work. Hashaka doesn't work. When did we say that chumrah doesn't work b'kodesh? Or we talk about kedusha sapeh or kedusha saguf? That's the question of the Gemara. So the Gemara says, so he asked him, I don't know. He asked him if kedusha sapeh did they make this chumrah. Grapes became tummy. If you squeeze them and then you make it kaddish to the toy. If you make it kaddish and then you squeeze them to me in the tummy. Why? What's the cheshbon? The cheshbon is like this: that according to Rabbi Yehuda, is wine deposited or is wine part of the grapes? That's the machlok right yesterday. Does anybody remember Shittas Rabbi Yehuda? What was Shittas Rabbi Yehuda? Shittas Rabbi Yehuda is wine is deposited within the grape. So therefore, the grape becomes tummy, but the wine inside it does not. Says the Gemara like this, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that if you squeeze it and then you make it kaddish, it's toy. Why? Because the grape was a sheni, and the sheni doesn't make a shlishi, so therefore the wine is toy. But if you first makdish it, then what happens is the grape is a sheni, it makes the wine a shlishi, and by shlishi there's such a thing. So we see, the kedushas peninu, anovim is only a kedushas pe. It's not a kedushas dom. It's not a kedushas aguf, because you don't ever put grapes on the mizbeach as is. So therefore, you never put grapes into a bowl which is hekdesh. So therefore, there can never be a kedushas guf on grapes. Nevertheless, they made this mila of that it makes a shlishi. We talk about grapes of truma. Now, truma grapes, you never put them in a bowl. The highest kedusha that grapes ever get by truma is only what? Is only kedusha sapeh. So therefore, that's why they made that kedusha. Avol, honey, but this water, the boy keli, that they need a keli, but pele also would have on a mile. Again, we have a chumrah by water. The hashaka doesn't work. Rather shaila. Is it when you did kedusha sapeh? That means when you said that this water should go to Beis Hamikdash. Or is it only once you've done kedusha saguf when you've put it inside a bowl of hekdesh? Says the Gemara, you arrive from grapes. So we're coming arrive from grapes because grapes we talk about truma. Truma, you never put it in a bowl of hekdesh. So therefore, there they made the kedusha already chal bishas the peh bishas the dibul. Masha'inking by hekdesh, where the kedusha is already there, where there's going to be a later greater kedusha. So maybe they only made the chumrah when it comes to the later kedusha, not by the earlier kedusha. If you squeeze them, even if you squeeze a very lot, if they got tummy, only less than the kabetza. So how can you say over here that you can squeeze a very lot? We talk about less than the kabetza. And when Rabbi Yehuda said you're allowed to squeeze it, he meant less kabetza. He touched the grapes of rishon, so therefore the juice inside it would be a sheni. Where if you touch the grapes, it comes to be a shlishi. So like this. Rabbi Yehuda holds that we look at the wine within the grape as being a separate entity, right? Almost like I touch this box, make a tummy, and then the box touches the shtenta. So what happens? It's a separate entity. That's how Rabbi Yehuda looks at a bunch of grapes. Therefore, if the grape was a rishon, then the juice will be a sheni, so then that's no good. Even if you squeeze it at a later stage, it will become tummy. So therefore, you have to squeeze it less than the kabetza, because less than the kabetza doesn't spread tumah. But if you say we're talking about a sheni to a shlishi, so then like this, since it's not yet kaddish, and there's no such thing as a shlishi bechulin, so therefore you can squeeze as much as you want, because since the grape itself is a sheni, it will not make the juice into a shlishi. Okay. So far we've learned that there's a special kedusha, a special chumrah by hekdesh that you don't do hashaka. Hashaka will not work by hekdesh. It works by chulim, but not by hekdesh. We're going to have another chumrah by hekdesh. The Torah talks about waters of a parah adumah. What do you do with the waters of parah adumah? You take a parah adumah, you burn it, you got a pile of ashes. Then you take a cup, you get water from a spring, and you dip a bit of ashes inside it, and then you sprinkle the water onto somebody who's tummy. How much water for what's the ratio of water to ashes? Anybody know? What? No. There's no ratio. It means you can have, if you've got a bowl which can hold 1,000 liters of water, and you put one drop of ashes, the whole thing is good enough for adumah water. Now, are you allowed to pour the water? The pasuk says you should take water from a spring. Are you allowed to collect the water from a spring in cup A, pour it into cup B to fill it up to make a bigger bowl, and then put the ashes into cup B? Or do you say, since the Torah says you should fill it up from the spring, cup B was never filled up from the spring, it was filled up from A, which was filled up from the spring? This is a kash. This is a question. This question, we have two drashas, and they contradict each other. Let's read the drashas as well. You should take live water. Live water means spring water into the bowl. Then you have to take live water directly into the bowl. So therefore, can you use where A and pour it into B? No. V'nosan, you should place it. You can also use water which you've already taken away from the bowl. It says v'nosan, you should put. Putting is take water from A and putting it into B. So go stira. You just said that it doesn't matter. You just said that you do need it to be attached to the spring. So more answers. Stop meaning like this. You can take from bowl A, put into bowl B, and from bowl B into bowl C, and that's also good enough. With the Rabbanan, they said no, and they use a pasuk, even though it's not a real pasuk, it's just an asmachta. So this is a chumrah by hekdesh. Now, what's the chumrah by hekdesh? That you can't use water which came from a spring water unless it's directly from the spring water. Normally, you can. Spring water is considered spring water even after you've bottled it a few times. But regarding hekdesh, the beta mile. What? Not tumah. No, not because of tumah. It's a special chumrah that you have to be direct from the spring water. One final chumrah. If a person tavels in the mikvah, sorry, there's another two. This is what you said before. That's what tvul Yomi is. If a person tavels and comes out to the mikvah, Oicha b'maisa is allowed to eat maisa sheni. Here, if Shim Sheif waited for nacht, Oicha b'tumah is allowed to eat tumah. B'tumah in the kodshim, no, he's not allowed to eat kodshim. When is he allowed to eat kodshim? Does anybody know? No. What? No, that's tumah is after nacht. When is he allowed to eat the kodshim? No. When he's brought his karbonos. Let's say it was a zav or a sava when he's finished bringing his karbonos. Amai toy, who is ready toy, and a mailo chanami mailo. So there's a third mailo. A maila that he's not allowed to eat kodshim until he's brought his karbonos, even though he's properly toy. That even wood and frankincense can become tummy. Now, is wood a food? No. So why can it become tummy? Does anybody remember? We asked this once before, only about 2 weeks ago. Why does wood become tummy? It's not a food. It's not. It should be like earth. So close. No, because we said, oh no, that's only if it's a keli. You're right, if it's a keli. But here we talk about logs of wood. It's not a keli. The answer is chibas kodesh machshalton lios tummy. Chibas kodesh, the precious of hekdesh, makes it tummy. Says the Gemara. Can they become tummy? So somebody will say to you, how many miles are the kodesh that we've learned today? 4. One is hashaka doesn't work. One is that you have to put water directly from the spring inside it. You can't use from a cup. Third of all, that even somebody who's told that he's waited for nacht is not allowed to eat kodshim, even though he's allowed to eat tumah. And fourth of all, that even though a piece of wood is not normally tummy, because at the end of the day, is not food and it's not a keli. The place Yisroel is very disturbed because some of these are derivatives and some of these are derabbanans. And why does the Gemara? Some of these are proper drosha, some of these are derabbanans. How can the Gemara say? Might also be kosher. The place Yisroel says it's pashtus, it's a special chumad made by kosher. It's not special chumad, it's pashtus. It's a pasuk. He leaves it short. Okay. So we're up to the Mishnah, which is a much easier Gemara mitzvah Hashem. It's about mitzvah of eating matzah and eventually mitzvah of eating more, etc. But we'll finish this today was over. They have a very good Shabbos. Shkech for coming. And that's not everything.